Hey, door is wide open today here in the Vinyl Village Garage, working on the Great Pumpkin 1968 Firebird restoration, proving to you that it can be done in your two-car garage. You know, every nut and bolt has been out of this car going back together. The best thing about going back together is the huge pile of parts that's over there is getting a whole heck of a lot smaller because they're going back where they belong. And speaking of that, check out the steering wheel here. I did get this thing painted. We saw the body working of this thing here. Check the little video out, but nonetheless, this thing came out fantastic. I absolutely love the idea of the autumn bronze color on the inside of the car, just the same. So we're going to work on getting that steering wheel installed on the car. But to make that happen, I need left-right selector column thingy put back in the vehicle to mount that thing too. So, and of course, I did get the horn button to match. That looks really nice too. That came out really good. So super happy with that, but I want to see that on the car. So let's just say putting a steering column in these first gen F-body cars, 67 and 8, just a little bit different than 1969. There's no lock cylinder in the steering column. This actually makes it really pretty simple for the most part, but maybe there's some things you don't know or would like to know. Maybe you didn't take that column out of your car, and maybe you might be missing some parts. So I'm going to show you all the pieces, all the bolts, all the little things to put this column back in the car properly so your steering wheel don't fall off. Here's all the stuff I've got it kind of laid out. Some of the hardware, a little wedge thing here that goes on there. I'm going to put that on there. And of course, steering wheel and our steering column itself. This one is a floor shift car. There's no lever on the other side of it, so this makes my life just a little bit easier. But they're essentially the same column. It's just a little thing for the linkage pops out the little window here and stuff like that. But for the most part, a column shift or a floor shift column are pretty much the same, how they go back into the vehicle. We'll start here at this end here. This is the rag joint. This is going to mount right to the steering gearbox, of course. Now when it does mount up, there's a pinch bolt that goes there. As you can tell, it is a 12-point head bolt. It is a 7/16 socket that's going to fit that bad boy. I got that pulled out, so that bolt is ready to go. So once we get this lined up on the gearbox, stab the bolt through, tighten it up. You'll have 3 holes here, 1, 2, and the third one's down there behind that. And there's some bolts. Big fat head like washers here that actually mount that back to the firewall. It's your seal to keep all the stuff from under the hood seeping inside the car and stinking up the passenger compartment. So there is a seal that goes on here. It's a rubber seal. This one's still actually in really nice shape, so I plan on just reusing it and putting it back on. So you will need that. And then the other thing is there's nuts here. There's 3. I still have one holding the bracket right there up inside the dash. So that's for the brake pedal bracket. So I'm going to use these 3. So 1, 2, third one's down there. And the wedge actually mounts here on the third bolt here, the stud. So keep that in mind. Sometimes that gets left out missing or out of there altogether. So those are the things you're going to need to get this put on. And if you guys, of course, I'll get you really close up the steering wheel. I'll tell you what, this thing came out really nice for, you know, some guy just fixing it up in here in the garage. But what I did, this is a base coat, then clear coat. It's just the outside car finish paints, what that actually is. Feel that's going to be the most durable finish that I could get out of it. And unfortunately, I mean, as much as this thing looks fantastic, the reality of the situation is it's going to crack again. But who knows how long it's going to take. Hopefully many, 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 many years. But it's just, I guess, the thing of nature. This stuff shrinks and cracks and goes to heck. But this here is the original center cap. Love me, hate me, or whatever. But it was black, but we got it cleaned up and then actually painted up the autumn bronze color. It feels real durable and I really like it. And I did not clear coat this. I only did just the base coat on that. Same thing on here. This is not a super glossy finish, kind of a matte finish. That's what we're going for, similar to the factory. But the steering wheel normally is glossy, so I want to hit that with clear coat, get a little more durability also just the same. So let's get this thing started. I'm going to stab this thing here inside the car, stick it through the hole in the firewall there and see if we can get it lined up. Well, let's dig into this here. Now, just in case, I don't want to say idiot-proof because that may offend somebody, but they do make this where this only fits on one way on the gearbox. It's a D shape, or there's a flat on the one side here. The flat spot here actually will index, actually when the steering wheel is straight ahead, almost to the 12 o'clock spot. So that being said, we don't need to follow suit down here on the steering gearbox. Our flat side of the gearbox, if I get my hand down in here and get my hand, you can see it's actually, this is the flat side. There's no splines. It's actually kind of a flattened, about a 1/4 inch wide area. I've got that at about the 12 o'clock spot just the same. So that way when I stab this thing through the firewall, it has to slide on that steering shaft that one and only way. So now with that being said, maybe that'll help you out, get that thing going. See by getting that thing tucked into here. And you can tell, obviously, the holes looks plain as day, easy to get to, but once I start putting everything back in, you can't see in there. So I wanted you to kind of see what it looked like prior to. fall into place. Now all right, now I've got this in here. My goal is to hopefully stab this through, get this clocked, get it lined up, and fall right on the steering gearbox. So the odds of that happening are about slim to none, but we're going to try anyway. I probably have better odds of winning that $400 million lottery, but probably ought to buy a ticket, I suppose. Now what I'm doing right now, there's a little mark on the steering shaft up here. I'm going to mark that index at about 12 o'clock too. That means I'll be pointing about straight up for this all to work. Hopefully, it all goes according to plan, and it just falls right together. Okay. So far, that's a big no. I think I'm splaying onto the steering gear. Oh, there we go. Look at that. It actually did fall into place. Let me show you what it looks like under the hood there. But I'm going to start a nut here in place. Probably should go buy that lottery ticket because that actually did just go right in. All right, what that looks like here. Let me get you guys down in there because you guys are a whole lot smaller than my fat head. That bolt hole now lines up nice and clean, and you have to push it on far enough because there's actually a little radius cut out. But now I can drop the bolt here into place, snug that thing up, and run that thing down. That should do the under the hood part of the portion of the job here. I'm gonna show you what I'm talking about. See, this is on the steering shaft here. Here's our column. That spot there should be about the 12 o'clock spot. And your steering wheel will also have a similar line when you stab that back on. And there's a reason for that. If you think you can just turn the steering wheel wherever you want, well, then your canceling cam for your turn signals, well, it's on the back side of this. It'll be out of sequence. It will not work properly. So, like I said, they almost make it idiot-proof. It's D-shape at the bottom of the steering column. We've got an index here at the top. Pitman arm can only go on one of, I think, 4 ways, so I guess you could mess it up there, but for the most part, it's almost idiot-proof. But now, that being said, as you can tell, I don't have the instrument cluster in the car, so I'm not going to secure this 100% to the dash yet, because I got to drop the column down just a little bit to sneak the cluster in so I don't scratch the paint up. So, but the thing I want to show you, though, the last thing here, this here little wedge here goes in here. I told you it went in between this one here, not the one closest to you, but back here, but the tab towards your toes. So TT, tab towards your toes. Put that thing in there, and you just kind of bring it in, and you snug it up where everything's nice and tight. So that's how that goes. And then, of course, now I've got these 3 bolts, so I can stab through these little things right here. 1, 2, and now you can see the third one over there. A couple little things here. The canceling cam. This is where the horn wiring goes through. Now that has to be, here's our point here. To get the steering wheel on, it needs to be indexed right about there. This turns, but it's a little snug. But it needs to be lined up right so when you slide the steering wheel over. And of course, then you have a spring here that keeps everything tensioned. When you put it all together, this will push against the bearing and it keeps this against the horn slip ring. But you gotta clock it about like so. And I figured the perfect way to end the video would be, let's go ahead and put this thing right on here. And this is what I'm talking about. If you look at that hole up here, that's where that horn, I guess, wire slip ring hole goes through. And we get our line up there, and we snug our nut up, and then we should be good. There you go, steering wheel is installed. Went ahead and balanced the little center cap on it so you get a finished look here, but the glare is kind of killing it. But this looks fantastic. This is going to be a white or ivory or parchment or pearl, whatever color you call 1968 white interiors. When they do that, the dash, steering column, everything is typically black. The owner came up with this idea. I wasn't sure about it at first, but I'm telling you what, really liking and really thinking this is going to come out really great. So basically, we swapped the black for autumn bronze on the inside of the car. So it's going to be a white top, which makes sense. White interior, autumn bronze dash, autumn bronze exterior. I think it's going to be a really cool custom but subtle touch. That's my kind of style, so he's right up the alley of something I think it fits my style, and I think he's really going to love it. And the steering wheel, man, it just looks fantastic. I still got to finish up the trim pieces for the horn buttons. I need a little bit of refinishing work on those. Then once that's all said and done, this steering will be a home run. So nonetheless, I got some more videos heading your way. Hopefully you found this useful or helpful. Putting a steering column back in the car. Not overly complicated, nearly idiot-proof. except for somebody who owns a 67 Firebird in Arizona. I'm not sure how you did that yet, Brian, but we'll figure it out nonetheless. And he's going to be at Firebird Fest this year, and I hope to see you there. A handful of you have already told me you're going to be there, and that's going to be a fantastic time. We got rained out last year, but still had one of the best times I've ever had in my entire life, hanging out with people who love these cars probably just as much, if not maybe more than I do. So if you plan to go, let me know. I'd like to appreciate, get a kind of a list, kind of who's who and whatnot, because I mean I got a lot of names on the old YouTubes here, but I don't know who you are by in person, because you know mine says Vinyl Village Garage. Who's that guy? Well, my name is John. I don't really know your name, so don't forget to introduce yourself or give me some clues, because I'd like to say I would remember y'all, but I don't know any faces yet, so I'd like to put some names and faces together at Firebird Fest. So, and of course, we staying up late, probably 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning in the parking lot, cutting it up. That's what we did last year. Even though it was almost rained out, the majority of it, we had the best time I've ever had at any kind of a car show. So hope to see you there. Nonetheless, got plenty more videos on doing some body working, but I made a comment this car was nearly drivable at $17,000, and I realized I didn't have the left-right selector in the car, so that wasn't exactly true. Now, if I really wanted to, I could fire this thing up, steer where it wants to go down the road, and drive it. Actually, I might just do that. But anyway, that's a video for a different day. But nonetheless, plenty more videos coming out your way. Anything else I can help with on the journey of your Firebird, proving to you that it can be built just a 2-car garage and still get fantastic results. And whatever we decide to do, we'll grab the camera, and we'll see you then.